Bienvenue sur GRF Web TV, émission à cœur ouvert. Bonjour chers internautes. Alors aujourd'hui j'ai une émission un peu spéciale dans le sens que j'ai une invitée qui est de Sud-Afrique. J'ai le plaisir d'avoir sur le plateau, I have the pleasure, mais l'émission va être en anglais à partir de maintenant, dans le sens que Lois Strachan, elle parle anglais. Well, Lois Strachan, welcome on GRF Web TV.
Merci beaucoup.
She's speaking French. Okay.
Oh, oui.
Okay, so should we proceed in French for the rest of the broadcast?
Non, je parle un petit peu.
So, okay, we're going to try French whenever you feel comfortable. So, Lois Strachan, it's a pleasure to have you on the set of GRF Web TV. My broadcast on Monday is called À cœur ouvert. Open heart. Okay, you can translate yourself. No need for me to translate. So, Lois Strachan is a visually impaired author, speaker, blogger, and rock singer. Am I right?
You are. And I'm a podcaster.
And you're a podcaster
Yes.
also. So, we're going during the broadcast to have the interview of Lois Strachan. Lois Strachan has reached Mauritius since
Saturday.
Okay, so how were the few days how was the weekend therefore, Lois?
It's been gorgeous. Absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
The people here in Mauritius are so lovely.
Mm.
The food is good. The weather is great.
The food is good also.
Oui.
Okay, and which food you prefer?
Oh, definitely something with Indian spices.
So you love the curries there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. Is it different from the curries in South Africa?
Much the same.
Much the same.
It depends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which place do you stay in South Africa?
I'm living in Cape Town.
You're in Cape Town. Okay, so dear viewers, today exceptionally we're going to have the broadcast mostly in English, and during the broadcast we're also going to have the Heart News. As now you're aware, we have the Heart News every week, where we share with you, dear viewers, a little bit of what we have been doing during the past week. Okay, so let's discover with Lois Strachan. Okay, tell us more about you.
That's such an open question. Tell you more about me.
Yes.
Right from the start, I was born in England
Yeah.
many, many years ago.
So you were not born in South Africa?
No, I was born in England. My mother was born in South Africa. My father was born in England.
Okay.
And I moved to South Africa, or the family moved to South Africa when I was about 4 years old. So all my life I grew up in Durban. I went to school in Durban. I went to university in Durban. And when I was in my final year of my Bachelor of Arts degree,
Yeah.
I became blind.
So, dear viewers, now you are already putting yourself this question: is Lois Strachan born blind? So now you are aware that you became blind at the age of
21.
21. Okay,
done.
and how it happened?
I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 6 years old. And it happens to about 60% of people who have lived with diabetes for many years, that they develop some level of problems with their eyesight.
Okay.
And in my case, they tried to correct the problems with surgery and laser surgery and treatments and things like that. And after about 15 months after we first diagnosed that there was a problem,
Yeah.
I became totally blind.
Totally. So you can't see at all.
No.
Not even at the initially, were you like one eye only, or both eyes became lost to the sight together?
Initially, after I had 6 surgical operations, 3 on each eye, and after that they worked on the left eye first, and that became totally blind, and then they started working on the right eye, and after the second operation they thought they would be able to leave me a little residual sight in my right eye, and something went wrong during the final operation
Aye.
on the right eye, and I became totally blind.
Total at the age of 21. And you were at that time at the university.
Yes.
So how's life after that? How you
Absolutely
took-
wonderful.
Yeah. So, dear viewers, this is one of the books of Lois Strachan. So, a different way of seeing. Okay, a blind woman's journey of living an ordinary life in an extraordinary way. So, let's elaborate a little bit more about the title itself. It's so wonderful, a different way of seeing. So tell us, share with our viewers, Lois, what is a different way of seeing? How can someone see differently?
I believe that sight, vision, eyesight is only one of the ways that we as human beings engage with the world around us. And when I became blind, I realized that it was only my eyes that didn't work. So I think that my different way of seeing is that I use my other senses, the sense of touch,
Yeah,
the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, the sense of taste,
yeah,
and intuition. It's just an awareness. And I use all of those senses to help me build a picture
yeah.
of what is happening around me. So a different way of seeing, it's not that I don't see,
Yes.
I just see in a different way. And I believe a lot of ways, a lot of things in life that we as people with disabilities, we don't have different abilities. We have the same abilities as everybody else.
Yes.
We
Which you
can-
use in a different way?
We just do things with different techniques.
So tell me, is it true that someone with a deficiency of, for example, in your case, of the vision will be able, do you develop other senses more with time? Is it true?
I think, I don't know.
I think I don't know.
There's two different arguments.
Yes.
Some people believe that your other senses get better. Other people think that you simply use those senses more.
Yeah, and the
so
fact
they
of using
appear
them
to get
more-
better means that they seem to get better.
Yeah.
All I know is that I use my other senses.
And
Do
which
I
one, you particularly, which one do you use more, or all that you have mentioned?
Probably touch.
Probably touch. Okay. And right now, on this, during this interview, how do you say Rama? The different way of saying.
There, very definitely using audio,
Yeah,
because you have a very strong voice,
yeah.
a very distinctive voice. So that sometimes,
Yes.
it happened more when I was younger.
Yes.
I could listen to somebody's voice and say, this is what I think they look like.
Okay.
And sometimes when I could test that,
Yeah.
I was correct. So, quick story.
Yes, please.
My husband, Craig, and myself were at a work function with his company in Cape Town.
Yes.
And I said something, and there was another group, the other side of the restaurant. And I said, the woman with blonde hair.
You mentioned that.
And somebody said, but there's no woman with blonde hair in that group.
Yes.
And later on, we were talking to that group of people.
Yes.
And one of the women said, well, I am blonde-haired, but I color my hair darker.
Wow.
And that was the woman that I said I thought was blonde.
Was that just an intuition, or
I don't know. I don't know how.
do you have a crystal ball?
No. How would I see it?
A different way of seeing the crystal ball
With touch.
with touch. Okay, so Lois, let's. Are you at his on the set right up to now?
Yes.
Good, excellent. So we can proceed with the interview then.
Oui.
Oui, elle a dit oui. Okay, so one of the terms which you use is that you're a motivational speaker. Am I right that you use this term to describe yourself? Motivational speaker. Whom do you motivate?
I use a number of different terms
Come
to
on.
describe my speaking.
Okay.
So I use motivational speaker, I use inspirational speaker, and I use transformational speaker.
Wow. Transformational.
Transformational
So you
speaker.
transform others.
No.
Oh.
And this is partially why when you say, who do I motivate? I believe the only person I can motivate is me, myself. All I can do is to inspire you or my audience to motivate themselves, to change them, to transform the way they see things, that they do things. So the reason I use motivational speaker
Yeah.
is because that is the term that is known by people outside of the speaking industry. And if they are looking for a speaker online,
Yeah.
they are going to look for motivational speaker or inspirational speaker. So it's really, it's more about what is known in the world.
So coming back to the motivational or transformational speaker,
Yes.
do you address an audience composed only of people with living with disabilities or anyone?
I speak to anyone.
Yeah.
That sounds, no. I speak to people who want or wish to overcome challenges or obstacles
What
they
type
face.
of challenges, Lois?
Any type of challenges.
Yeah.
Because often if we are facing a challenge, we feel overwhelmed. That doesn't change. That feeling of being overwhelmed is exactly the same
Yeah.
for someone with a disability or someone without a disability. And the process that I learnt, that I've used through my life to help me overcome my challenges, my obstacles, those are tools and techniques that I can teach to other people
Yeah.
to help them in their lives. So it's business challenges, life challenges. It may be people who have had a recent diagnosis of disability. It may be people in families who are trying to understand how best to support someone
Yeah.
with a disability.
Okay. So you mean very often you have to give support not necessarily to that person who is living with a disability, but to people in his surrounding.
Yes, because we don't live in isolation.
Yeah.
We live in a context, in an environment. And so it may be that someone, that the person with the disability, yes, they may want assistance, support, helping them with their lives, processing what is happening to them. But so do the people around them,
Yeah.
their families, their friends, their work colleagues.
Yeah.
So I enjoy working with all the people
Yeah.
who are touched by disability. And I think it's very important to do that.
And how has been your training to become a speaker? Have you been trained to that, or is it inborn? How it happened?
Well, I'd love to be able to say that it's through the experience of living life. And that is an important part of it.
Yeah.
But it's also, I was a Toastmaster for 20 years.
Oh, we're going to talk about Toastmaster.
Yes, I'm sure we
yes,
will.
Yes, we're going
So
to.
I learnt my speaking, my facilitation, my training skills, I learnt through Toastmasters. And then added on top of that, I am a qualified coach. So all of those skills work together
Yeah.
to help me in the work that I do.
Okay. And coming back to when you were at the university, when you turned blind, and I guess you had to, for a certain period of time, Dr. Pasraman, welcome on the set of GRF Web TV.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rama, and welcome to our distinguished visitor, and GRF Global Ambassador.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Lois Strachan.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Pashuman.
Okay, so we'll proceed with this question, then we're going to shift to Dr. Pashuman. So I was just asking you, so when you turned blind at the time, at the age of 21, you were at the time involved with your studies, okay, at the university.
Yes, I
So
was.
you had to stop with your studies for a certain amount of period of time.
I didn't actually. That's the
Please
strange
share with us,
thing.
share with our viewers how did it happen.
I was finishing my third year of my final
Nearly
year.
graduation.
Yes, I was just about to write my final exams when I first experienced problems with my eyesight.
Yeah.
And over the next 15 months, so
Yeah.
that was from November of the 1 year to January of
The next year.
the following year. So there was a year
Yeah,
in
yeah.
between. And between there, I took time off my studies so that I could go through the treatments that
Yeah.
I was having. But after I lost my sight, which was in the end of January, I returned to university 3 weeks later.
And you could adapt yourself easily, or that difficult initially?
I've always been someone who has loved to solve problems.
You're a problem solver.
I am, and it's a very important skill. But what I found was that as I went back into my studies, now being totally blind,
Yeah.
I had to work out and solve small problems.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very fortunate, and I'll always be immensely grateful to the lecturers and the departments that I was studying
It's
with,
always good to mention that.
because they were absolutely superb in helping me to work out how I was going to do my readings, how I was going to do my essays, how I was going to do my studying. They really were fantastic about
Did
that.
you have the opportunity to thank them on a particular platform? If not, you can use GRF Web TV today, right now, to mention the names of the university, anyone whom you feel deserves to be thanked.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Please,
I
proceed.
do. I have
Please
thanked them
proceed.
in my book, but also I was studying at the time through the University of KwaZulu-Natal,
KwaZulu-Natal,
in the Durban
yeah.
campus,
Yeah.
and it was the departments of English and the Department of Classical Civilizations. And everybody from the head of department through to the department
So not to
secretaries,
frustrate anyone, you
to
don't
the
want to
lecturers.
mention any name.
It would take far too long, and we only have until 12 o'clock.
Only to 12 o'clock. Wonderful. You've got the sense of humor, which I love. So, Omugam Pasroman, it's a pleasure to welcome you on the set of GRF Web TV. So you know how we proceed here. Today we are having Lois Strachan with a visually impaired author, speaker, blogger, rock singer also, and famous writer. And she has shared with me this book today, A Different Way of Seeing, which we were talking about earlier. So please, over to you.
Thank you, Rama. And let me join you in welcoming Lois Strachan, GRF Global Goodwill Ambassador, for being with us today. In fact, she's our very special guest for the GRF 11th anniversary, which will take place on Friday 11. And we've been in touch for a year now, over a year, I think, Lois.
It's about that time,
Yeah,
yes.
thanks to Angie
Yes.
from the Toastmaster team from South Africa, who introduced me to you. And ever since that, it has been always a pleasure and very inspiring to talk to you. And always so much of, enthusiasm that you have, so much of ideas, and
Positive attitude
very
prevails.
positive and very constructive and very professional also. And therefore, all the qualities that Rama has mentioned about you are fully, now we can testify to all that. And so I'm aware of the extensive work you've done in the area of disability also, but also in the area of motivational speaker, author, and also coach, blogger, podcaster, and so on. So what I would like to say, Rama, today, while I leave you, I think what would like today to get maximum from
Yeah, sure, definitely.
open heart,
Open heart.
as Rama calls this program, But from my side, I must say, I feel very privileged, and I feel Global Rainbow Foundation feel very privileged and honored to have you as part of our one of the galaxy of people we have who support Global Rainbow Foundation. Apart from those in Mauritius, you from South Africa in particular, but also with your global connection. So I would like to welcome you, and we are looking forward to the interaction, the exchanges that we'll have between you and this team here, and between you and myself, and I'm sure we will come to some good conclusion at the end of your mission with Global Rainbow Foundation in terms of what we can do. And I am fully aware of your various initiatives taken already to consolidate the link with Global Rainbow Foundation, and to also envisage something that we might do in South Africa. So I won't elaborate on this at this point until we discuss further. But Rama, I think it is wonderful that we have Lois with us.
Yeah,
I would leave
sure,
you to
definitely,
continue
definitely.
to draw more from the heart.
Yeah.
Right? And also, I'm
You
sure
can rely upon me for that. I'm good at surgery.
I would also have a special word. I've mentioned Engi from Toastmaster.
Yes, please.
But I would have a special word to Craig,
The husband
of
yeah.
Lois. And a wonderful person. And I must say, and I am happy that you are a wonderful couple, because in this life, in this situation, you need to have this solidarity, the mutual love, and mutual respect and support. So I'm very happy that Greg has accompanied you on this mission. We'll have a chance to meet him also. And so what I would suggest, Rama, that you carry on with your interview,
Definitely.
with your program with Lois. And Lois, feel free. Feel free. We want to learn from you. We want you to share with the Mauritian persons with disability, but also with the population at large, to understand what you stand for, and what experience you will share, but also to give guidance to many people in terms of how do we face challenges in life. Yes. And you are such a wonderful example. In spite of what happened to you, you're still, very strong and very committed to moving forward with your journey. So I would therefore conclude my brief intervention just to once again reiterate my happiness at having you with us, and I leave Rama to continue with the interview.
Thank you, Professor Pasuraman.
Well, thank you.
A few words before Professor Pasuraman will move, Lois?
Yes, well, thank you. I am so excited to be here at the Global Rainbow Foundation, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about the organization, about the amazing people here in this room and in the organization as well, and to see where I can make a small contribution to help as well.
So humble.
Well, I'm very fortunate in my life, and I know that I became blind, yes, but I had all of the tools and the resources that I needed. There are many, many people who aren't as fortunate as I was. And if I can make a small difference in other people's lives to help improve their position, their situation, I'm always happy to do that.
Excellent. Great. Okay, so I proceed. So, yes, Lois, you mentioned that you are what we call a disability consultant.
Yes.
So what is the role of a disability consultant?
Essentially, I work in organizations that are not disability focused to help them make their workplaces more
You mean
inclusive.
awareness?
It's about awareness, but it's also more practically about physical, emotional inclusion, attitudinal inclusion. And then also the other side, the digital side,
Yes.
to help people understand their online offerings. Are they accessible? Their social media posts.
Do we have lots of facilities like, for example, application which are available to help people, for example, visually impaired?
Absolutely.
Can you go for a little demonstration, for example?
I can, and I think the first thing for me to just explain to the viewers is that the digital devices that we use, laptops, desktops, mobile phones, all of these are able to be adapted in certain ways so that people who wouldn't use them in a normal way, like me, or like someone with a mobility impairment who's unable to use their hands, that they are able to engage with a standard computer using the same software, the same apps, just in a slightly different way.
Yeah. But Lois, I've got a question at this stage. Well, all these cost money, isn't it?
Not really. So
Maybe
let me
in
explain that. Let me
yeah,
explain
please.
that.
How? Not really. Because I'm sure that someone, we've got lots of people being visually impaired, blind if we can call it. Which term do you prefer, by the way?
That is such a long conversation. I personally prefer the term blind.
You prefer the term blind?
I do,
Yes.
because it is what I am. It's not all that I am. It's only a part of me.
Yeah.
But I am blind. I'm not
Full
visually
stop.
impaired.
I'm blind, full
I'm
stop.
blind. Full stop.
Okay.
I'm not visually impaired. A lot of people do use the term visually impaired.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely fine. I want people to be comfortable using whatever term they are comfortable with. But for me, the reason I don't like vision impaired or visually impaired is because I am not broken. I am a whole person. I just don't see. So by my preference, I prefer using the terms blind or partially blind rather than partially sighted,
Okay.
because that speaks to something that isn't as much part of my world.
Exactly. So coming back to the cost of all the apps, all the facilities which you have mentioned, what about those people who can't afford all these gadgets, devices, etc.? How do they proceed? How do they live with their disability?
And this is where I do realize that people have different economic positions, different...
Yeah, we do have
Yes.
huge differences.
And what I would say is, if you are able to afford a laptop or a mobile phone, a smartphone, then the accessibility side, the screen reader, the software package that helps in me to use those are no extra cost.
Yeah, once you have it, I agree with you. But what about those? That was my question. What about those who can't offer themselves? For example, do we have organizations who look after to help those people, to bring solutions, to provide them with all these devices to make their life easier?
There are organizations that do that, and if I understand, I think Global Rainbow Foundation
Global
is
Rainbow
one
Foundation
of those.
here is one of them.
And there are a number of different organizations globally around the world who will try to assist people to get the basic technology they need. But what I'm saying is that if you are able to get hold of the basic technology, there is no additional cost to make that piece of software or hardware accessible for someone who is blind or partially blind.
So the next question, just regarding what you've mentioned, should someone be necessarily a person living with disability to be a disability consultant?
I don't think you have to be, but I do believe that the lived experience of having a disability, moving forwards with your life despite a disability, does give a greater level of insight. It's a lived experience rather than a
some sort
learned
of positive
experience.
discrimination. You understand the term?
Well, I do understand. I'm also understanding there are other terms that I've heard about blindness gain. What we gain through being blind, and there are a number of things.
Yes.
That
For example?
we do. greater levels of intuition,
Mhm.
the ability to make use of the other senses that we have,
Yeah.
to understand
Which you
things in a
mentioned
different way.
earlier. Mhm.
Strong visualization skills,
Yeah.
or strong conceptualization skills,
Mhm.
that we're able to envision something
Yeah.
in it without having to see it. So that's that kind of understanding. It sometimes seems a little abstract when you talk about it or consider it.
Yeah.
But it can be a very real asset to have.
And do you know other people who are disability consultant like you?
I do, yes.
Yes. Do you have lots of them? Several of them?
I do have several of them, yes. Both people who are blind or visually blind, partially blind like myself.
Yes.
Well, blind like me, partially blind, or people who are in wheelchairs.
Yes.
And they are working to gain greater access, greater inclusion within the workplace, within society, within organizations of whatever level.
Yeah.
And there are so many different parts of society and societal workings that people can make a difference in.
Yeah.
I have some friends who work specifically in making television and movies accessible to people who are blind and visually impaired.
Can you repeat that, because it sounds amazing, Lois?
That there are people who work specifically in the field of making TV, movies, theatre, ballet, art, museums accessible for people who are blind or partially blind.
So you mean that someone who is blind can watch a movie?
Yes,
Do you watch movies?
I do.
Please share with us.
There is a process called audio description.
Mhm.
Audio description is an additional audio track that tells a sight-impaired person what is happening on the screen. And it's not a different track, so it doesn't stop the movie and this is now happening. It happens in the spaces where there is no audio being spoken.
Okay. So meaning that there's no restriction to watch the movie smoothly, just like, for example, there's a train going, then
Yes.
it will mention sound of train, something like that.
It doesn't need to mention there's a sound because I'll be able to hear that. But if you see... I'm trying to think about it. A short example.
Yeah.
If the movie or the television program shows a cat jumping onto a table and knocking over a glass of water, the audio description will mention the cat jumping onto the table,
Yeah.
and also it may mention that the cat bumps into the glass of water. I can hear the sound of that glass when it hits
Yeah.
and smashes. So this is it's an art form in itself, and it's something that I've become more and more aware of. It's becoming more and more spoken about internationally, and certainly if you look at a lot of the streaming services on online,
Yeah.
like Netflix and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Often when you look at the area where there is the language options,
Yeah.
audio description is an option
Yeah. Audio.
for one of the audio
there's
tracks.
the sign of an ear there.
Yes.
Okay, which you can scroll there, and if you click on that, then you're going to have this version.
Well, I don't know if it's the sign of an ear, because that could also be using closed captions for people who are deaf or who have hearing loss. So that's another way of making movies inclusive for people with other abilities.
Even for someone who has been born blind.
Yes,
Okay. Good.
because you hear what's happening on the screen. You hear what is happening in the movie. It fills in the gaps that is often... If you watch a thriller or an action movie, there's a lot of sound. You don't always know who's just been shot
Yeah.
or what has the sound of a car crash.
Yeah.
You don't know whose car is involved.
Yeah.
So
Is it the
audio
villain's
description-
car
or
or
is it
the lover's
hero?
car?
You don't know.
You don't know.
So the audio description tells you in some very short, brief phrases what is happening on the screen. And sighted people are using these as well, because it means that they can now watch TV or movies in their car because they don't have to see the screen.
Yeah.
They can watch TV and movies while they are cooking or going running or
So
just busy doing
technology
something else.
has brought a huge amount of enhancement to help people with disabilities.
yes,
Okay.
and everybody else as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, Lois Strachan, our guest today, is a motivational speaker, transformational if you want. Okay. She's also a disability consultant and a coach.
Yes.
Is it another term which you use, or is it a different task?
For me, a consultant would work with an organization
Yeah.
where a coach will work with an individual. So you may have coaching that is involved in the consulting work, in working with a team or an individual.
Yeah.
If I'm doing any sensitization work, that might be teamwork, but I will use the skills of coaching. Consultancy is more about,
Groups.
well, that would also be, they are words.
They are words. Yeah, they are words.
Consulting is, I think it's someone who is considered to be an expert in a field, who then sells consulting services
Yeah.
to an organization. And then the skills that they will use within that organization will differ and may include coaching.
Okay. So for you, basically, being a coach is more like a one-to-one activity.
Oui.
More of a one-to-one activity.
One-to-one or one to a small group. yes.
Or one to a small group.
Yeah.
And it happens to you that you have to do coaching regularly
Yes.
also?
I do a lot of coaching, often not on a formal basis. It's really a way of life for me. That if someone comes to me with a question or a problem, and it's something I can solve quickly and easily, I will do that. And
Okay.
that is coaching.
Okay. So, Lois, your another experience is a blogger. Can you share with our viewers what is a blogger?
A blogger is someone who writes short articles and shares them online.
Okay. How
So
do you share?
That one's a lot quicker to explain. There are a number of different ways. There are a number of different platforms like WordPress and electronic platforms like that
Yes.
that are well designed to accommodate blogs.
And which type of articles, which type of sharing?
Well, my blog appears on my website,
Yeah.
loisstrachan.com, and people can follow that, and so they receive
Can you
emails.
just repeat it for our viewers to take note, please?
It's loisstrachan.com,
Yeah.
LOISSTRACHAN.
Yeah.
loisstrachan.com. And they can go
Together,
there and
Lois and
see
Strachan together.
Oui.
There's no space in between.
no space, nothing. And all of my articles are there.
Yeah.
And then I usually share them on Facebook.
Yeah.
I put them onto there, and I share them on LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn also, which is a wonderful social media platform.
It is. And all the social media platforms I use in different ways to
Okay.
reach different audiences.
Okay. And which are the different social media platforms which you use?
Mostly at the moment I'm using Facebook, LinkedIn. I use YouTube in some cases. And then Iono FM is the platform where I host my podcast.
Okay. And as a blogger, you write things regularly there. You are in contact with your audience. Do you have an audience as a blogger?
I do have an audience as a blogger. It's difficult for me to be able to give you exact numbers because I am sharing the content on different platforms. Some
And on
of which
different
will-
topics also.
Yes, mostly related to disability, well, to blindness and disability.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then also I have one category, which is the blind tourist, and that's about my travels. And then my guide dog also writes
Okay,
blogs.
I was going to ask you, when Professor Pasuraman earlier mentioned all the people, I told myself, come on, Rama, the dog has not been mentioned. Because I know about the dog. Please share with our viewers.
At home, I have a guide dog. Her name is Fiji. She is a yellow Labrador crossed with a golden retriever, and she's currently 8 years old. We've been working together since she was 18 months old, which for anyone who has a dog, they know 18 months, that's normally when the dog is chewing things, digging up the garden. My dog has been working as a guide dog.
At the age of 18 months.
18 months. So we've been working for a long time together.
Okay.
A guide dog is, I don't like saying she's an assistive technology, but she is. Many people who are blind or partially blind prefer to use white canes to help them navigate the world around them through the sense of touch.
Yeah.
For me, I love working with a guide dog
So
to do
your
the same
white
thing.
cane is Fiji.
It depends. Sometimes, like today, I have my white cane with me
Yeah.
because it's always more difficult for me traveling with my guide dog. So she's at home. Hello, Fiji. We have a house sitter who
Is
looks at our house.
someone
Yes.
watching this broadcast right now?
I don't know if Claire and Fiji are watching. Claire is our friend who is with looking after our dogs at home.
Uh-huh.
But if they are on Facebook, so they might be watching. And hello, Claire. Hello, Fiji, if you are watching. But yes.
I'm sure they're watching.
And Fiji, basically, she walks on my left-hand side, and she helps me.
Only left hand side.
She
She has
I
been
am-
trained for that to work
Yes.
on the left hand. Why left instead of right?
because this is so rightist, but because many people are right-handed.
Yeah.
So their right hand is their dominant hand. So the dog is working with their less used hand on
No,
the
this
left.
is very interesting.
It is possible in some countries for the dog to be trained to walk on the right if you are left-handed. In South Africa, if that is a real need, I don't want to make promises that I can't, that are wrong, but I'm pretty certain that they would do their best to accommodate that and work with the dog so that it would work on the right. But that's essentially why most guide dogs work on the left.
Is Fiji being allowed to go with Lois at public places?
Yes, she is.
There's no restriction. For example, let's say you're traveling in the metro, in the tram, in the public bus to go to shopping malls. Are you allowed to bring your dog? How you call that? Which?
A guide dog.
Guide
yes.
dog. Are you allowed to bring along your guide dog with you?
Yes, I am.
There's no restriction.
There are technically no restrictions. Legally, the government, the laws in South Africa allow access. But as so often happens, it's an attitudinal issue, and often we do struggle to bring the dog in, and there's a whole process that we learn about how to manage that if it happens. I've very seldom now, but I've been refused entry to a restaurant occasionally, maybe 5 times in the whole time that I've had guide dogs, which is now close on 30
You
years.
had another
20 years.
one prior to Fiji?
I had Fiji is my 3rd dog.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because they have got a lifespan.
Yes.
And it's very hard for you, isn't it? To
It-
lose your companion, I mean, your blind dog.
The dogs aren't blind. I need to make that clear.
Yeah.
They are guide dogs.
Guide.
People call them blind dogs. But
Yeah, people call them blind dogs, yeah.
yeah. In fact, I do have a blind dog.
Okay.
He's a little rescue dog, and he's partially blind. But we're not talking about. We're talking about Fiji, who as a guide dog is there to guide me.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between working with a guide dog and a white cane is that when working with a white cane, you avoid obstacles that you encounter. So I'll be walking along with my white cane, swinging my white cane in front of me, and it bumps into something, and I work around it because I know where it is because my cane has encountered it. With Fiji, my dog will notice something coming up on the sidewalk in front of me, and she will decide which is the safest way for me to go round that obstacle without encountering it.
And how is Fiji going to tell you what to do?
I follow her. I can tell from the way she's moving. I can tell what is happening. If she moves in front of me slightly, it means there's something coming up on my left. If she moves across to the left, I know there may be something on my right. So she used that. Also, she will stop at down steps, down curbs, anything like that, where there is a change in the level of the pavement or the floor. So she stops to tell me there's something there. I then explore it with my feet to find out why she stopped. And then together we decide how we're going to move forwards from that. Same thing going up. So if we're walking towards a road, she will stop on the pavement before we reach the road. I will find the edge of the pavement with my foot and then instruct my dog to move forwards. She will cross the road and then stop with her front paws on the up curb on the other side of the road. So that I know that there is a step in front of me going up. So in ways like that, she shows me what is happening in my environment.
Wow. So amazing. Have you mentioned her in your books?
I do. In fact, she has written a book herself.
How? Please explain. How's Fiji been able to write a book?
All right. I need to probably take a step back.
Yeah.
So, as I said, she writes one blog for me every month on my blog site.
How?
Well, technically I write them myself. But I do so in her voice, from her perspective.
So you mean you interpret?
I interpret the way she sees the world. And I look at things that I think, if I were a dog, what would this be like?
Wow.
And in fact, she published a post, trying to think, this last week. Last week, on Tuesday. That was her post.
Dear viewers, please stay with us. We are not telling things which is not under our control, because Lois Strachan, our guest today on the set of GRF Web TV, is sharing with us that her guide dog writes article.
She does. I do the typing. But yes, so she did a blog post about a book that was recently launched by a friend of mine who is also an author, and she has written 3 books they are fiction, about a woman who loses her sight on her honeymoon.
On her honeymoon?
On her honeymoon. She's just got married, she has an accident, and she becomes blind.
Your friend wrote that book?
My friend Barbara Hinsky, she wrote the books.
She's also a blind person?
She is not herself, but she has done a huge amount of research, working with some of the American foundations that work to train people who are blind, with the various of the guide dog organizations as well. So her books are well researched. And she has the most adorable, fictitious guide dog in her books, who works with her main character, Emily. And the books are called Guiding Emily. And she's just launched the 3rd book. So Fiji wrote a blog saying, "Oh good, Barbara's got a new book out and my favorite fictitious dog, Garth, is going to be sharing more of his adventures." So that was Fiji's last blog post. And in fact, my last podcast is an interview with the author talking about the books, talking about the series. So if people want to find out more about the Guiding Emily series, they can find them on Amazon, or you can hop onto my social media and find links
Is it
to
free,
the podcast.
available freely, or they have to pay for that?
If they are listening to the podcast, that is free.
Yeah.
And you just access the link through my website or through my social media. If you're wanting to buy the books, there is a cost to buy the books, but they are also available on Bookshare.
On Bookshare. Yeah, but Bookshare is restricted to people with visual deficiencies, or for people with cerebral palsy only.
People who are print disabled,
Yeah.
people who cannot access books
Yeah.
in the normal way.
Otherwise, others won't be able to have access.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you've mentioned podcaster a little bit earlier. So, is it a little bit of what I'm doing here at GRF? Is it this?
Very much, except you have the visual side as well.
Yeah.
I don't. Mine is merely an audio content. And I interview people. Initially, when I started the podcast, I was focusing only on travel for people with disabilities. And I spoke to people with visual conditions, with mobility conditions,
Yeah.
hearing conditions, and we spoke about how do they travel, where do they travel, what do they do. And more recently, I've broadened the focus of the podcast.
Yeah.
So now we talk about all matters related to disability.
Okay. And recently, I've listened to one of your interview on the podcast. It's about one of your guests was Mr. Siva Mudali. He himself being a person living with a disability. Can you tell us more about Siva and his experience? Because he was so amazed to be on your set. I could hear that during that interview.
Siva Mudli is also a disability consultant and activist. He is visually impaired himself, and he has worked for many years in the teaching profession
Yeah.
to make teaching more inclusive. So he looks and trains people within that space to have an inclusive classroom setup. Within mainstream schools or special needs schools, he works a lot with that, within that area. More broadly, he also does a lot of work in other areas. In fact, he is running a conference in Cape Town next week.
So you'll be there, or in Mauritius?
No,
You'll be in Mauritius.
I will still be in Mauritius. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
he asked if I would be.
Fortunately for us,
Well,
unfortunately for them.
Unfortunately for them, he asked if I would be a speaker at the conference, and I'd already committed
Oh,
to
you
being here.
you arranged to have the like a Zoom intervention.
I didn't actually. I should have thought of that, but it's.
It's not too late. It's never too late.
I'm pretty certain that his arrangements for his conference are now well underway.
Okay.
So, but I do hope that the conference is going to go well in Cape
Good.
Town.
So, dear viewers, right now we have our friend Lois Strachan with us in the studio of GRF Web TV, and I will ask the technical side for the pub, please.
On retrouve moi dans Flac Cœur de Ville, Super U, et c'est la première fois que je viens faire shopping à Flac Cœur de Ville, Super U, et j'ai une expérience extraordinaire, une place bien disabled friendly, et moi je vais trouver le quartier même qui est accessible à une personne qui le fauteuil roulant, et je vais faire mon shopping. Et on vous dire qu'il y a une personne qui travaille ici à Flaque de Ville supérieure, j'étais très gentille et j'étais quand je suis venue là, difficulté, j'étais là, j'étais venue. D'ailleurs, comme on dit, il y a déjà un code sécurité qui fait le nécessaire pour que le transport nous capable de descendre facilement. Et moi, comme on disait, et tout, et voilà un petit peu d'expérience aujourd'hui au Flaque de Ville supérieure. Je suis très impressionné par l'accueil de tout le staff et aussi les différentes facilités pour les personnes en situation de handicap qui l'ont côté roulant. Et moi, avec tous mes camarades qui l'ont côté roulant, qui étaient dans plusieurs bandes shopping, pas équipé d'une Flaque de Ville supérieure. Et c'est ce qu'on parle aussi, c'est un service qui est disponible dans plusieurs bandes hypermarchés de supérieure, que ce soit en B, par les autres endroits côté supérieur. C'est un état qui est accessible pour les personnes qui le fauteuil roulant, que nous ne pouvons pas déplacer facilement et même pas besoin de personnes qui là pour, comme si pour aider, pas nos parents et tout, nous-mêmes, indépendamment, nous ne pouvons pas faire nos shopping. Nous disons merci supérieur pour tous les accueils et tous les aides et tous les films de moi aujourd'hui. Merci.
So back on this set of GRF Web TV, and we have in our studio Lois Strachan, who is a friend from South Africa. Lois Strachan is a visually impaired author, speaker, blogger, and rock singer. So let's come to rock singing. So share with us when you started all this, knowing that you are good at singing.
I have always loved music, and that goes back to before I became blind.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be a musician. You know, when you're 6 or 7 years old and your parents and the teachers say to you, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I always wanted
The
to say...
typical question.
I always said, I wanted to say, I want to be a musician. But that wasn't an answer that they would like. So I always said, I don't know. But so it's been something that I've wanted to do since I was very, very young. I was in choir at school. I was selected for the Natal Youth Choir when I was in my high school. But then I never did anything about becoming a musician until I became blind.
Oh, so you waited, Lois waited for her to become blind, then to be able to capitalize, maximize upon that talent which was hidden.
A week after I became blind,
Only
I
a week
joined a
after?
rock band.
Only a week after you turned blind, you joined a rock band.
Yes.
Wow. And what did you there? You've been doing there?
When I started off, I really was only doing backing vocals. And then the main vocalist invited me to do 1 or 2 songs on lead vocals. And then I picked up keyboard and started playing keyboard in the band. And then later on I started a different band where I was doing main vocals and playing guitar on stage. What I discovered was that when I was playing music, because it was something that I loved to do, it allowed me to take a step back from the whole experience of learning to live as a blind person.
Yeah.
And it gave me a space just to regather my energy and then move forward.
So you mean singing is some sort of inspiration, self-inspiration for you?
It was. In fact, I do sometimes say that music kept me sane. And that might be a very flippant comment to make.
Yeah.
But it really did. It gave me a space in which my blindness didn't matter. And when you're newly blind, having that space, I think, was very important. And I started...
So it helped you to be, to accept your blindness?
Yes. And I started writing music only after losing my sight.
So you write music also?
I do, yes.
Okay. And the inspiration comes from?
Life, everything. I don't
What
ever,
do you relate in your songs? Because
Oh,
listen,
my word.
definitely we are going to listen to a few tunes from you right now. A cappella.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know that that's such a good plan. But I write about. I never sit down to write about anything specifically. I don't ever consciously write about my disability.
Mm-hmm.
But I can often, when looking back at the lyrics, I can see different trends. I use visualization. A lot of the times I will use light as a metaphor in my words.
Mm-hmm.
I use, I don't ever really, art for me is more about what it speaks to the listener as being.
In an abstract way?
Well, no. Everybody is going to hear my music differently and resonate with different parts of that. Either they'll enjoy it or they won't. When they're listening, they might go, oh, wow, that makes me think about this or that. And that differs. And I think that what I like about the creative process of music is that where it comes from in my life is one part of the song only. That's my level, my dimension of the song. But it gains such a deeper dimension by what the listener brings to it as well.
I'm sure you know the famous blind musician called
Well, there's Stevie Wonder. There's
Stevie Wonder,
Yeah.
Mozart, Chopin.
Chopin was blind later in life.
Chopin was blind late in life.
I think so.
And what about Mozart? No,
Mozart became hearing impaired.
hearing impaired. So
Or was that
from these
Beethoven?
three
Or was
examples,
that Beethoven? Sorry, I don't really know classical music.
Okay.
My husband will be watching this going, I don't
no
believe
problem.
she said that.
So great. If
He's
you're
the classical
listening.
musician.
Okay,
Craig
so
is, yeah.
all these three. Let's come back to Stevie Wonder. Okay, so Stevie Wonder is a wonderful musician.
Yes.
Okay, and he plays wonderfully, and that inspiration, that powerful message in his music. I'm sure that Lois Strachan message also is so powerful. So let's please listen right now to something whichever you feel comfortable to. So dear viewers, please bear with us. We're going to have an a cappella right now, something from Lois.
Oh my word! If I'd known this, I would have brought a guitar with
This
me.
is this is why I call it a cover.
All right. This is. I'm going to sing un petit peu only of a song called Misconception.
Misconception.
Misconception. And I wrote the song early one morning, sitting on the couch in my lounge, and the chords, I was just playing on my guitar, moving my hands, playing some chords, and suddenly a melody came to me.
A melody took birth.
Yes, it just appeared. And I started writing it then, and it took me about an hour to write the song.
Only 1 hour.
Now if I can remember I use a lot of references to literature and mythology in the songs that I've written. So those come out, and you may hear one or two in the song, particularly.
You can make yourself be accompanied by some music from your mobile if you want as
well,
background.
I was just. Maybe we can do that instead.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me see.
So
Let me see.
The time for you to do needful. Let me share. When you're ready, you tell me.
All right. Well, let me just show you very briefly as well what I'm doing on my phone.
Yeah, please.
So I need to. So now if you can see, I don't know where your camera is, but there I've now, I usually have a screen curtain on, which blanks out the screen.
Okay.
So there's only.
Camera. Clock. 11th contacts. Downcast.
So it speaks to me and tells me all of the icons that you would usually have.
Okay.
Now, somewhere, if this works,
Shared CT. Has FNB Dropbox. One new item.
I should have some of my music in here.
The
Okay.
favorites and program from IT. Shared. 2 of 4. You'll drop
Whoops.
offline. 4 of. Your Dropbox
You want me
is
to help you?
almost full. Dismiss.
No.
No, I won't be able.
Dismiss. Program from the failures
Okay,
and
take your
rejections
time
and
and
start. Shared. Selected. Recent.
I'm-
Section files.
so in the meantime, do you want me to do something else to share with my viewers?
Timeline and activity tag bar.
I'm
Files. Tag.
just actually not certain whether I've still got them here. Folders.
Accessible.
So as we usually have lots of issues with our mobile, so Lois also is having issues with her mobile.
It looks like I've taken them off my
deleted.
Dropbox, unfortunately. I have space issues because of a lot of the projects that I'm working on at the moment.
Okay.
So that means I'm afraid you're going to have to put up with me singing just as I am.
Okay.
All right. This is hard. Little Miss Carly packed her bags and headed for the sun. She left her home in a country garden, waved goodbye, and now she's gone. Heading for those starlit nights, whoa, where those lights they are too bright. Little Miss Carly, where's your party? Gonna lay down for the night. So I can probably stop there.
Oh,
I can do a little bit more if you'd like.
yeah, please.
All right. She went to the place where all dreams come true, and the streets are paved with gold. Now her misconceptions are all she sees as those city lights grow cold. And I really think I should stop there. Merci beaucoup.
Wonderful, wonderful. And do you play any other instrument other than the keyboard?
I play guitar, I play keyboard. I'm not like my husband. He plays practically everything under the sun. In fact, he brought a tin whistle with him to Mauritius
Wow.
because that's his latest instrument that he's learning.
Excellent. And violin also, I guess.
He doesn't play violin.
Yeah.
He plays bass guitar in my band.
Yeah.
He plays bagpipes.
plays in your band?
He plays guitar. He plays keyboard. He's a classically trained pianist.
Okay.
He plays lots of things.
Okay.
So,
So right now I've got a question: how you met your spouse?
through music and a guide dog.
Okay.
When I got my first guide dog many, many years ago, I went for training with my dog in Johannesburg. She was a little black Labrador named Layla. And then Layla and I came down to Cape Town for the final part of the training. And the night we finished our final training, there was a music festival
Yeah.
where a number of the musicians that I remembered that I grew up with in Durban, they were coming to play at the festival.
Yeah.
So Layla, my guide dog, and I went to the festival.
Okay.
And Craig's band, Elephant Sun, they were playing. And Craig
Okay.
was on stage and he looked up and went, "Oh, what a beautiful Labrador." And I met Craig the next day
Yeah.
at
Were you
a
sure that the
barbecue.
compliment was for the Labrador?
It was the dog. He didn't look at the person on the other side of the lead. He only saw the Labrador. But we met the next day where, voila, there was the Labrador.
Uh-huh.
And he told me he was going to steal my dog.
Oh.
And I told him he wasn't allowed to.
So instead of stealing the Labrador, he's
Stole both of us.
that's
Oui.
what I was going to draw as conclusion. So both
Yeah.
were stolen, and so up to now, this is a wonderful team, and once again, it's amazing to learn how you as a couple, you're traveling together and achieving things. You playing music together, singing one in the band and everything like this. He also helps you with the writing.
No, the writing is, well, the writing of my books,
Yes.
that's all me. The writing of the songs is all me. But he is allowed to write the bass lines for his part of the music. I know what I am good at,
Yeah.
and I know what I don't know anything about.
So regularly you have your SWOT analysis then.
We
Your SWOT analysis, identifying your
Strengths,
and
weaknesses,
your
opportunities.
weaknesses,
And, yeah.
opportunities and threats.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, Lois, comfortable up to now with the interview?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Except for the singing, I would have preferred.
No, you would have preferred to have the instrument also.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with you, and also having all the music from your mobile. But unfortunately, because of space facilities, you had to get rid of those marvelous music, or it may be stored somewhere in a hidden folder.
Well, some of my songs, including Misconception, are actually available on my website as well.
Okay.
In fact, all of my music can be found at the band's website, tuesdayschild.co.za.
Excellent. And your music is being broadcasted on the public radio there in South Africa?
No, we never really got it to that point. We
Why
have
not?
had
Why not?
we have had one song that got played on one of our radio stations. Our music kind of fell in the gap between the listenerships of the different radio stations. So one of our radio stations said we were too rock for them because the music is a blend of rock music and folk and acoustic.
Yeah.
And then another one said we weren't rock enough for them,
Okay.
so we didn't fit their profile.
So, all of them, they had an excuse, whether it is too rock or not enough rock.
Well, I don't know. It was many, many years ago now, but the songs are available on tuesdayschild.co.za or on my website on loisstrachan.com.
Lois, just a little word about, I'm sure you don't want to talk about that, but just to share with our viewers, that diabetic retinopathy which you mentioned earlier. Can you just come back to that a little bit to share with our listeners what is this ailment about?
Diabetes is a condition where the body is not able to accommodate sugar
Yeah.
that goes into the system. That
You mean insulin? There's your insulin deficiency.
Well, yes, primarily the organ in the body, the pancreas,
Yeah.
that produces insulin, that is broken.
The
or
islets of
flawed.
Langerhans of the pancreas.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have to then, as a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic, I have to take insulin injections.
Do you still do that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And in about, I think the World Health Organization says it's about 55% of people who have been living with diabetes, type 1 or type 2, which is usually diet controlled. The people who've been living with diabetes for over 15 years
Yeah.
develop some problems with their eyesight. It's due to the amount of sugar in the blood can then thicken the blood,
Yeah.
and as it is the blood is too thick to go through the retina of the eye
Yeah.
easily.
Mhm.
And what happened to me initially, I had internally I had bleeding in one of my eyes.
Yeah.
It appeared in my vision like there was a fly flying around in my vision, and I thought it was something, and I was swatting at it because I just thought it was a bug.
Okay.
Except there was no noise, and the bug didn't go away. And the next day, I went to an optometrist who checked my eyes, referred me to an ophthalmic surgeon, who then started me on the treatments to try and unclog the blood vessels in my eye so that I could get my sight back.
And right now, regarding this diabetic problem, do you have some advice to give to people around you?
About management of diabetes.
Yeah.
Check your diabetes. Go to a clinic. Go to a doctor. The mistake that I made, I believe, is that right from when I was a young child, I was only with a general practitioner.
You should have
not
been
with a specialist.
With a specialist.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
If I had been seeing a specialist who knew what to look for in my diabetic care, they would hopefully have picked up the changes in my blood pressure and might have been able to prevent my sight loss.
But you've been diagnosed with diabetes at what age exactly?
I was 6 years old.
6. And at that time, you already had treatment for the diabetes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And even insulin at that time, at that age? No. It should have been.
I can't I mean, that's many years ago. My diabetic management was mostly looked after by my parents, and I'm not blaming them.
Yeah. We're not
They
blaming
did
anyone.
the
We're not
best.
blaming anyone.
They did the best that they knew to, based on the medical advice that they were being given by a doctor who was not a specialist in diabetic care. So there are so many more resources. There are so many more. There's so much more knowledge about diabetes, about the side effects of diabetes, and I think for me the primary thing that someone who has been diagnosed with diabetes is to check in with your medical practitioner
Regularly.
regularly.
So, before we proceed further, Lois, let me just share what we call the heart news on every week, as I mentioned earlier, the heart news. So, I can share this one in French or the Creole, which we use to. Donc, mesdames et messieurs, nous sommes sur le plateau de GRF Web TV. Alors, les événements de la semaine écoulée, alors, vous avez qu'une faire. Le 3 novembre 2022, nous avons un free medical camp à Souillac, en présence bien sûr du docteur Omgompa Souamen, et en collaboration avec le Aria Saba de la région, c'est-à-dire de Souillac, et également avec le Senior Citizens Club de Savane. Et nous y recevoir 120 patients, et nous y même donné un wheelchair à un garçon, a physically disabled young boy. A wheelchair has been offered to him. Et également a walking frame offered to an elderly lady with mobility problems. I'm going back to English just for Lois to be able to follow. And we also celebrated the birthday of a young person of only 101 years old. Okay? The young person of 101 years old, we have been celebrating her birthday and launched a clinic there also. So, on the 4th of November, there was that an article regarding the Sessi food. We have to talk about that when we come back to the interview, Lois, about the Sessi food tournament, which we had last Sunday. So, and the press covered that event, and it in the newspaper, it was on page 5, L'Équipe, and also another one on the L'Express newspaper, page 38. So, we thank all those nice reporters who have been covering this event. So, also on the 5th of November, we had a GRF Solidarity Golf Cup 2022 at Avalon Golf Estate as from 8:30 in the morning in collaboration with Avalon Golf Estate. So several gold sponsors and platinum sponsors were there, and even a Porsche. So activities: shotgun, breakfast, unique game format, lunch, prize giving, surprise gift, and auction, and all that. And that event was being held, and what was being obtained on that day will come to GRF for funding. Okay, and also we have the free capacity building conference for NGO and on the 10th of November, an event which is coming, and also don't forget the 11th November 2022 GRF 11th anniversary celebration at the Paul Octavier Auditorium, Réduit from 14 hours to 16 hours. So, Lois, you are especially in Mauritius for this event, am I right?
That is correct. Yes,
Please
I'm
tell
so
us.
looking forward.
Let's talk about that.
Well, as I understand it, there are 2 days for the capacity building workshop. And the first day will be on the 10th.
On the 10th, yeah,
The
free
afternoon.
capacity building conference for NGO, Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so to register yourself, let me give you the number 5704-4408. I repeat, 5704 4408, 5704 4408, 5704-4408 to register yourself for that free capacity building conference. You will be there to entertain that. Am I right?
I will be one of the speakers at that event. I'm really honored to have been asked to speak as well about disability rights awareness. And then on the Friday morning at the in-person conference at the university, I will be speaking there about inclusion in that event as well.
And when you've heard about all the activities held by Global Rainbow Foundation, I could feel that you wanted to say something.
I did.
Please.
Because I want to learn more about Sese football.
Yeah.
Because I know about blind football, but I don't know about... I saw all the Facebook posts, but I want to know more about the sport.
Okay.
Because I know about adaptive golf, I know about adaptive scuba diving. There's so many sports out there, but this one... Oh, I know about goalball. But I don't know about Sese football. So...
Lois,
love
would
to
you
learn more.
mind, because we left with only 10 minutes officially, would you mind if we have to, we can exceed by some 5 minutes?
That's all right if that's okay for your
No,
viewers.
from our viewers, I think, because I have a few questions left. So let's talk about Toastmaster. So you are a prominent, distinguished Toastmaster.
I was with Toastmasters for about 20 years. I did achieve my Distinguished Toastmasters award 3 times, in fact. And that is the highest educational level that Toastmasters offers in communication and leadership training. And then on the leadership side, I was elected as the district governor of Southern African Toastmasters.
Yeah. And what's the importance to be a Toastmaster?
For me, all of my life is built on the skills that I learned in Toastmasters. Toastmasters teaches communication skills, which are essential in any sphere of life.
Okay.
Because we speak, we communicate, whether it's in business or whether it's social, whether it's a parent-teacher, so you need to be able to speak in some form. And learning those communication skills, I believe, is really important. For me, starting off as in my work as a receptionist who was terrified to answer the telephone, I really needed help. And moving from that through to becoming a professional speaker, consultant, trainer, facilitator, those are skills I learned through Toastmasters. But even more than that, I think the leadership skills, the business skills are so important. It's about gaining in confidence. It's about building your skill set.
So you would recommend anyone to join a Toastmaster?
I would, absolutely.
So let me just share with you that I'm recently a chartered member for the Toastmaster Club, which we have just launched for GRF. Recently, last month, GRF has its own Toastmaster Club now. So, and as from now, we are on the move.
That's fantastic. I'm really thrilled to hear that.
Okay. So, coming back to a different way of saying, okay, one of the topics of your podcast, okay, we have already mentioned that, but let's come back to the book itself. If in a few words, we can't discuss about one book in a few lines, but I will just read what's written there. Have you ever wondered how a blind person pours a cup of coffee? Or how they and their guide dog know when it's safe to cross a busy road? So, when Lois Strachan lost her sight at the age of 21, she has to learn the answers to these and countless other questions of how to live as a blind person in a sighted world. In this delightfully quirky and entertaining book, Lois shares some of the secrets she discovered about how to live an ordinary life in an extraordinary way despite her blindness. Please, over to you to say a few words.
The reason I wrote A Different Way of Seeing is that people are curious. When they look at someone who's blind, they don't know what is possible for that person to do. They don't know how we do the things that we do. What are the tools we have? What are the techniques that we use that allow us to live ordinary lives?
Can I say to unlock your potential?
Yes, the skills that we learn that help us unlock our potential. I like that. But essentially, I sat down to write a book.
Let me just share with you, because I run a personal training course, which I've devised myself, called Unlocking Your Potentials. Okay, so
excellent.
That's why I'm using that term, to unlock your potential.
It is very important.
Yeah.
We don't know what we are capable of doing until we are placed in a situation that we need to learn it.
Yes.
And we can often, I think, as human beings, we can do far more than we think we can.
Yeah.
And certainly that's my experience of having lost my sight and then being taught the skills, the basic skills that I still continue to build on in learning and doing more. So the book really is a way of answering the questions that people who don't know about blindness, who don't know, who watch me walking and go, how does she do that? People who know that I have a computer, but they don't know how I use it, who wonder whether Craig applies my makeup. And it's not a spoiler, no, he doesn't. I do that myself.
Yeah.
So it's about...
I can witness that just before entering on the set of the GRF Web TV studio, Lois has herself used her makeup, her lipstick.
It's one of those things that I learned very early on. And it's really, for anyone who's going, yes, but how? It's about using the sense of touch. The only difficulty in makeup is buying makeup in different containers so you don't get them mixed up, which I have done in the past. But that is a whole different story. But so the book, it answers the questions of how I do some of the things that I do. Because I believe that one of the biggest challenges that we face as persons with disabilities is that the world out there doesn't know how we do the things we do. So they think that it's not possible. I mean, the number of times people have been absolutely amazed that I can chop a tomato or peel a potato or pour a cup of coffee or put toothpaste on a toothbrush.
So you can do all that?
Oh, yes, and much more than just that. But people think that it must be hard.
Can you bake a cake, for example?
Yes.
Okay.
Why not?
And do the decoration and everything?
The decorations might look a little bit unusual.
But you will do that?
I would do that too. Not that I actually eat cakes, but I certainly cook other things.
Okay.
Yeah. I love cooking.
Okay. And you've mentioned empowering team members with disabilities to be more effective. Oh, you're like a sort of magician, Lois.
I wish. Magic is one of those special things. I think everything in life is a little bit magical. I am simply... I want to make people's lives a little bit easier. Be those people like myself who are visually impaired, partially blind, people who maybe face obstacles in other areas of their life. There's so much that individual people can do to help one another. And I want to be part of helping other people.
Rapidly, you have also mentioned that you have worked with different organizations. For example, I've just chosen a few of them: Deloitte & Touche, Western Cape, Vodacom, amongst others, and DHK Architects. So what's the secret to be able to find a job with such prestigious organizations? What?
In each of those cases, people have come to me because they've had a need.
Okay.
So the architectural firm, I met one of the directors of the firm,
Which one? In which company?
the architectural firm, the
Yeah.
DHK.
Uh,
DHK.
yeah,
I-
DHK Architects.
I met a gentleman on a flight between Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Mhm.
A friend and I were returning from speaking at a disability conference in Ghana,
Yeah.
in West Africa, which was absolutely amazing. And we were just chatting, this gentleman and myself, we were chatting about my life, the work I do, the work he does. And he said, you know, in our organization, we've spoken to a number of people who are in wheelchairs, people with mobility conditions.
Yeah.
We've never spoken to someone with a visual condition.
That was on the flight.
That was on the flight. Would it be okay if my assistant contacted you and invited you to come and speak to us about how you navigate large public spaces like university campuses, shopping centers, office buildings? So that's what I did. I went and spoke to them about how I navigate using a white cane, how I navigate using my guide dog, and some of the technology that is now available to help people navigate without sight.
Do we still have everyday new technologies
Yeah, absolutely.
cropping up?
Yes. About when I spoke then, the technology known as beacon technology was quite new
Yeah.
and being developed.
Yeah.
And that is where you would use a mobile phone to connect to a beacon or an electronic device that transmits information. And that would be able to tell you, on the left is this shop. The restrooms are 10 meters down on the
Okay.
right. So there was that technology. Increasingly, we're also finding that people are now using QR code type technologies
Yeah.
to help navigation, paired with a smartphone.
Yeah.
There are apps that help with indoor navigation and outdoor navigation. And together, all of these tools...
Do you have, for example, a sophisticated walking stick now?
I have just a simple white cane.
Yeah, but the white cane, we have new devices now where it is like
The
user
digital,
friendly.
yes. I know, I've learned a little about the digital canes.
Yeah, the digital
I've
cane, yeah,
never had
exactly.
the opportunity to use one, but I'm hoping that I might be able to see what one is like. But yeah, there is so much advances in technology that increasingly mean that I and people like me are able to do more and more without additional support.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody needs a little bit of help every now and then. And I don't just mean we as blind people, I mean everybody in the world.
Yeah.
None of us is able to live totally isolated on our own without anyone else. None of us are experts at absolutely everything in the world. And often,
I've received a message about Aqua, my great broadcast. What should I understand from that?
I'm not certain.
Are you you can sing this one, Aqua?
And I don't know. No.
I don't know. I've received that message, Aqua, my great broadcast. Maybe someone would like you to sing it. Okay. So let's proceed. Regarding what you've said, okay. So regarding what you've said earlier, it looks like you are someone who is always positive minded. Always. Is it true that you've never feel discouraged? You never give up?
It's not true.
Not true.
Like everybody, I have my bad days. And there are days that I want to climb back into bed, cover my head with the pillow, and stay there. And that's okay. Because everybody has bad days. The important thing for me is that I know how the techniques that I need to help me regather my energies and then go back and continue working through what I'm doing. So I do. I'm very, self-care is so important.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of things, simple things that I love, that give me joy.
Yeah. And
Reading
what you
books.
do for the self-motivation?
I don't ever really need to motivate myself. I'm just someone who's highly curious about the world around me and loves exploring and investigating new things. So there's always that questioning mind. I wonder how that works. But what I do find is if I'm lacking in energy, if I'm really tired and I'm just having a down day,
Yeah.
having something, taking a bit of time out to listen to music, play music, read a book, do something that I love doing. Even just hug my dog. I take the time out that I need to just say, it's okay. I'm not feeling great. That's okay.
I'm coming back to a message received. Yes, please, it will be great to hear her sing for us. Aqua Mai.
Oh, my word. Sing again.
Aqua Mai.
Now that I don't know. I don't know
So,
who
but
that is.
someone is going, okay, whatever you want, people are asking you to sing again.
I wonder.
So,
I have always had a problem with first lines. That as soon as I start thinking about a song, the first line goes whoops, out of my head.
yeah.
But one song that I have sung a whole lot, all over the place, different countries around the world, is not one of my own songs.
Yeah.
It is a song by George Gershwin.
Yeah.
It's called Summertime.
Yeah, Summertime is a wonderful song. So
I-
let's listen to Lois Strachan with Summertime. Yeah, it's the perfect time because it's summertime.
It is indeed. Summertime and the living is easy. I have to put the pauses in. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. More?
Why not?
One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. You're gonna spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. But till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by. And that's really all there is to that song.
So now I can interpret well. Aquamai was the nickname of someone who have been in our studio. Her name is Valerie. So she uses Valerie. Hi to you. So you can always say hi to Valerie. She was just listening to you, and her nickname on Facebook is Aquamai. That's her.
Well, bonjour, Valerie.
Okay. So Valerie, you have a special hi from Lois this morning. Okay, so we are nearly ending today's broadcast, Lois. So let us share something with our viewers about being on Amazon. Please.
With my books.
Yes, with your books. I know you've received lots of praise, bestsellers, isn't it?
One of my books is a bestseller, which was amazing. Having that recognition was just so special for me. The first books that I added to Amazon. All right, so let's take a step back. Amazon is probably the biggest website in the world that sells books. There are a lot of sites that do, but Amazon was really the main one in terms of where people look for books online. Most people go to Amazon first. And there are lots of other sites, but And it just seemed natural to me. You know, if I have print copies of my books, when I go and speak, I can reach a small audience. If I make them available on Amazon, I can reach a global audience. And people then have a choice in whether they want a print book or an electronic copy of the book.
Either an e-version or the hard copy.
E-version or a hard copy. And obviously in South Africa or perhaps here, because buying things from Amazon in print, it's expensive because we can't ship them. There's nowhere yet in Africa that that is easy to ship to. It comes from Europe.
And the shipping fees are very high.
Are very high. So people there, I would say, buy them from me or from my website. But people internationally, I wanted them to be able to read my books too. So the first books that I put onto Amazon were my 4 illustrated children's books called The Adventures of Missy Mouse. And they are about a blind mouse who navigates the world around her using her other senses. And they were such fun to write. I wrote them shortly after I became blind, really as a way for me to process what I was learning, how I was learning to do things using my other senses. And it helped me to process that information through writing it down for children's books.
Excellent.
And they are illustrated by Colleen Gomez, who's a wonderful illustrator living in Cape Town. And so we did those books and published those and then put them onto Amazon. And it's just become naturally part of my process now.
Okay.
So I write
So
a book.
you're
and
working
put it onto
close
Amazon.
collaboration with Amazon.
Well, I think any author who wants to reach a broader global audience needs to be aware of a platform like Amazon. Because
Maybe you can help us with iRise. You know iRise?
I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
yes.
because you're one of the actors of iRise. I had your interview for the book, which is going to be on the market very soon. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about iRise rapidly because...
Yes.
Please, proceed.
Well, I think
Your
iRise definitely
experience
should
on
be.
being with iRise.
I think it should be on Amazon because it will allow you to reach more people with the book.
Will you be a facilitator for iRise to be on Amazon?
I would be able to help you in one side of things and the bit of the process. The technical side, that is not my strength. So that I
So
usually...
whatever you've been doing with your
Yes.
books, let's do that. Let's Lois Strachan do this with iRise to reach a larger audience.
I'm more than happy to chat to you about that while I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It will be. So, Lois, we're nearly reaching the end of this today's interview. So, just so rapidly, 2 last questions. So, how you feel today to be the interviewee?
It was fun. I'm used to being an interviewer.
Yeah, that's
So
that's why I'm asking you.
it's nice being on this side of the microphone.
Okay. Okay. And will you share this interview on your podcast post?
I will definitely share it on my social media, on my blog and on my Facebook. Absolutely. Of course.
Okay, excellent. So, we are now reaching the end of today's interview. So, I leave it to you to wrap up, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching today's episode of A Cœur Ouvert
A cœur ouvert, yeah.
with our excellent dynamic host, Rama.
Thank you. So, catch you next week.